Hello everyone, today I bring another video for you. I hope you like it. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos. Now let's go to the video. 1,000 years ago the planet Hell was super developed, but a black hole appeared and caused a disaster. Mysterious particles ejected by the black hole filled the planet, and suddenly a car stopped in mid-air. A drone approached and asked the owner of vehicle 4873 what the problem was. Inside the car the driver was coughing a lot and seemed to be choking on something. Suddenly, a strange plant began to come out of it while the drone repeated the question. The man asked for help because a giant plant came out of him, and these particles caused animals and plants to undergo mutations. Soon after, soldiers appeared and began shooting at the creature with their firearms. Their attack did not work, and they called for reinforcements with greater firepower to deal with the threat. The creature was so strong that it destroyed a building, and several people began to fall from it. And then a mysterious figure appeared in the sky, and people wondered who that being was. A martial arts expert appeared to save people in despair with a golden aura. He descended from the sky at high speed and landed a powerful blow on the giant carnivorous plant. With just one punch, the expert caused a huge explosion and easily defeated the creature. The girls who saw the scene were impressed and shouted that he was very cool. The entire crowd began to shout his name Shisha Ping in recognition of his great feat. From then on, the planet Hell entered an era of martial arts where strength was everything. Suddenly someone shouts his name again, but this time it was because he was sleeping in history class. The furious teacher said that in 5 months the big exam would be a key moment to decide his future. The boy woke up confused, and the teacher asked him to tell the class about his future plans. He then wondered about the future and remembered that this was the planet Hell. The teacher then commented that she knew most of the students were as confused as Xia Ping at that moment. She went on to say that working or going to college was something to think about now, and they would do research without lying. A classmate asked if her third stage martial arts level would make it difficult to get into college, and she replied, "Of course, it is also possible to start working and earn money to support your family," she said, and the protagonist thought about it. In his memories, he was just an ordinary student at Yanhuang Star, no different from others, but 3 days ago, something unexpected happened as he was hit by a very powerful purple ray that took him by surprise. After that, he simply passed out and fell to the ground, scaring the people around him. When he regained consciousness, he was shocked because he had a strange family memory of a life on Earth as Xiaxia. Xia Ping then asked the teacher if there were any other options besides exams to move forward. She replied that during work he could earn a lot of money to buy monster meat and spiritual medicine. A student commented that almost every student on the planet Hell is required to practice, and this is part of the exam. No matter if he is Xia Ping from Earth or from the star Yanhuang, he is still unique and will live an exciting life. Suddenly, a countdown to access the system started 5-4, and he wondered where the sound was coming from. The fusion of souls was complete, and the superhate system attached itself to the host, leaving the boy confused. Curious, the boy asked the screen what exactly these hate points were. The system explained that hate points are negative emotions of living beings, and provoking these emotions generates the points. The system screen even seemed tangible, and the level of hatred was divided into ridiculous aversion and disgust. With a thoughtful expression, he then wondered if this meant the screen wanted him to be hated by everyone. He realized that the teacher and classmates did not see his previous action and decided to test the super hate system. With a smile on his face, Xia Ping told the teacher that he had already planned his future, and she asked him to tell her. He then declared that he wanted to the best Yanhuang University and become the strongest warrior, leaving everyone surprised. The instructor, with a look of astonishment, asked if Xia Ping was serious about that bold statement. With a confident air, the boy just crossed his arms while several points of hatred +1 appeared around him. Suddenly, he felt a burning sensation in his eyes as more dots of hatred continued to appear. The protagonist felt countless pairs of angry eyes staring at him, and all this energy entered his body. These colleagues, who seemed harmless during the week, actually had demons in their hearts, and he gained points. He thought that this was the true evil in human nature as more hatred points were accumulated. Being invaded by this kind of evil, he unexpectedly felt an indescribable pleasure with the situation. A colleague then asked what Xiaping was talking about, and another commented that perhaps he was still half asleep. A student with stylish hair said that with his cultivation at the third heavenly level, it would be difficult even for a bad university. The boy replied to Yang Wei that just because he can't do it doesn't mean others can't either, and some are born useless. Yang Wei was furious with veins popping out and demanded the protagonist to repeat what he said as more dots appeared. The hero thought that this was the look he wanted and that the hatred would come stronger, while he teased him saying that he wouldn't be able to do it. The insulted man shouted asking if he dared to offend him, and a friend laughed asking who gave him that name. With an evil smile, the young man turned to Gawan and asked why he was laughing and if he had the right to mock him. Jawan was now speechless, with his face red with anger and snot bubbles coming out of his nose, earning more points. Still in disbelief at the boy's audacity, he shouted, asking what the other had said for him to repeat. The protagonist then mockingly asked if he couldn't hear or if feathers had blocked his ears. The colleague threatened him by asking if he was looking for trouble, but the young man just scoffed, saying he was afraid of them. At that moment, a hand slammed down on the table, and someone shouted, "Nuff," to all the chaos in the room. The angry teacher asked Xiaping what was wrong and said that names like Gawan and Yang Wei did not justify insults. Yang Wei desperately said that it was not his intention, and the master called him as he quickly denied everything. With a tired sigh, the teacher just closed her eyes, looking very disappointed with the whole situation in the room. Then she turned to the protagonist again and called Xiaping's name quite seriously and firmly. He replied that it wasn't his fault, because she herself said it was similar and the woman sent him out to think about it. The boy thought that the superhate system was interesting, and that he should study it more since no one would be on the roof. We then see the school building with its clock marking the time under a blue sky, and some white clouds passing by. On the terrace, the young man called the system and asked how many hate points he had just achieved there in the classroom. The system reported that the host gained 120 hate points, and for being the first activation received a gift package. He was surprised by a gift package and thought it was not bad, curiously asking what would be inside that special box. The interface asked if he would accept the system's gift, and a little red creature appeared with the box, leaving him amazed. With wide eyes, the boy wondered if that was the virtual image of the system itself that had suddenly appeared. The mascot asked the host not to panic, as his image was generated by his preferences, and asked if he would accept. The protagonist considered that since it was a gift there should be nothing negative about it, and so decided that he would accept the item. The system congratulated the host for obtaining the package and a valuable secret technique. The Pure Yang Indestructible Technique. Suddenly a powerful energy began to flow into the boy's body, and he screamed at the intense and new sensation. The technique operated with heaven and earth absorbing the essence of the sun to forge an eternal body, something very rare indeed. He thought that the solar essence was so terrifying that even a little bit would burn an ordinary martial artist to ashes. This cultivation method began by devouring the essence of the sun to strengthen itself, being of a high level without any exaggeration. The young man realized that this was an opportunity, and even without knowing if it was true, he needed to test it for himself now. Sitting on the roof, an intense golden light enveloped the protagonist as he meditated, deeply concentrated there. From his mouth a golden energy began to come out, and he seemed to be releasing an immense power that was contained. His eyes shone brightly, and a circular wave of gold energy exploded around him with great force on the spot. The force of the energy was so great that the boy was thrown backwards and ended up hitting a nearby wall. Falling to the ground, the young man was surprised by the strength and steam coming out of his body, demonstrating the power released. Amazingly, he felt his body much lighter, and the cultivation method helped him break through one of his internal meridians. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed in the place, and a wall nearby appeared completely destroyed, raising dust. With a smile, he realized that the cultivation method was too much and made him advance to the 4th level of the celestial realm. A patrol drone appeared, questioning who broke the wall, and threatened to deduct points if it discovered the culprit soon. Realizing the trouble, the boy ran away from there in despair, because he knew that this would be very bad for him. Back at the school building, someone suddenly shouted Xiaping's name loudly, quickly catching his attention. Already in the cafeteria, he was eating peacefully when Yang Wei and another colleague approached him unexpectedly. Yang Wei pointed at the protagonist and said angrily that it was no coincidence as he came here just to meet him. Still eating, the young man asked disdainfully if he was there specifically to apologize for what had happened before. The student became furious and shouted that he was there to settle accounts for having been ridiculed in front of the entire class. Yang Wei's friend impatiently put his hand on his shoulder and said that he didn't need to talk so much nonsense with him. The brute then stepped forward and said that his cultivation was not great, but he had courage and wanted an explanation. He then proposed a fight on the Flying Dragon platform and threatened that the boy would greatly regret it if he didn't go. The other students in the cafeteria were quite shocked to hear about the Flying Dragon platform and that challenge. The platform allows open fights and is like signing a life or death contract, a lawless and very dangerous place. One student asked if Shang Beishan was that powerful and another replied that he didn't even know who the guy was there. Shang Beishan was 2 meters tall and had divine strength, being nicknamed the Black Bear Spirit with a 1,000-kilo punch at the 5th level. Some students ran away saying not to eat anymore because Shang Beishan would finish the boy off right there. The bully asked if the protagonist was scared, but before he could answer he said it was too late to run away. While eating a roll, the young man asked disdainfully if he really thought he would be afraid of a brute like him. Furious, the big guy shouted at the brute and ordered him to repeat it if he had the courage, while many hateful figures appeared around him. Yang Wei and his friend tried to calm Shang down by asking him to control himself because if he lost his temper, everyone would be in trouble. The protagonist then dropped his chopsticks and said that it was okay. He accepted the challenge just so they could stop bothering him. Shang pointed at him and said he would see him on the platform after class, and if he didn't show up he would be in big trouble. With a confident smile, the boy just confirmed that everything was okay and the challenge was officially accepted between them. Back on the roof, he asked the system how exactly the hate value could be exchanged for items in the shop. The mascot explained that with enough hate value, the items in the shop would be available for purchase and showed the interface. Already possessing the indestructible body technique, he decided to check if there was any martial art suitable for him now. He was shocked by the prices of the 10 billion Celestial Seal, the 10 billion Reincarnation Fist, and the 9 billion Immortal Sword. With so little hate value, he wondered how long it would take to buy a 10 billion technique, and the system answered. The boy thought that more than 100 of hatred attracted revenge, and with 10 billion he would become a public enemy for sure. The mascot said it didn't matter because the store also had cheap items and showed him some basic boxing techniques. The protagonist was surprised that the Fist of 5 Forms cost 100 hatred while being a mandatory, basic technique of the school. With a tap on the screen, he decided to buy the technique, and a successful purchase message appeared followed by start transmission. An intense light shone, and the young man pointed upwards as the energy of the new technique began to flow into his body. He incorporated the movements of the white heron, viper monkey, and even the fearsome Tyrannosaurus Rex into his new technique. With a tiger's cry, he punched the air and an image of the beast appeared demonstrating the power of the Fist of 5 Forms. The blow was so strong that it destroyed the roof wall again, and he exclaimed that the Fist of 5 Forms was ready. With a satisfied smile, the young man realized that he had mastered the essence of the technique instantly, and it was already in harmony with him. The clock in the school tower ticked away as another day of school came to an end for all the students there. Suddenly someone shouted Xia Ping's name again, causing him to turn around to see who was calling him this time. He recognized the familiar voice and wondered who it could be that was calling him so insistently. Turning around, he saw Jiang Yachu, the class president, standing on the stairs, looking straight at him seriously. The girl asked if he really planned to duel with Shang Beishan on the Flying Dragon platform, and Liang Xiaoxu was along. He thought that Jiang was the president and flower of the class, neighbors since childhood, and Liang was rich and had an air of superiority. The boy just confirmed that it was true, and his friend asked how he could be so impulsive and accepting to fight with Shang. With a mysterious smile, the young man said that she didn't understand but would soon know what was really happening there. Outraged, she retorted that she wouldn't understand if he was just a weak martial apprentice and would get hurt badly on the platform. Xiaoshu said that Yaju was not his girlfriend and shouldn't care so much waiting for him to break his face to learn. The purple-haired girl just grumbled something about that idiot and told him to leave him alone since he didn't want to hear it. Back in the classroom, the protagonist walked calmly while the other students whispered about the upcoming duel. A colleague asked if Xia Ping had any chance of beating Shang Beishan in the duel that would soon take place between them. Another student scoffed, saying that the boy was aiming to be the best student so his cultivation must be strong, and Shang was nothing. Yang Wei laughed and told them not to make fun of Xia Ping, because just the courage to challenge Shang Beishan already earned them respect. The protagonist then replied that it was none of their business whether he entered university or defeated Shang, and to mind their own business. The students were clearly angered by his response, and their expressions showed quite an angry expression at that moment. One of them then asked with a sarcastic smile if since he was so confident he would dare to bet with them right there. Yang Wei and his friend explained that if he lost he would have to run around the school naked 3 times, and they would do the same if they lost. With a confident smile, the boy said that it was no problem to bet, but he was afraid that others would be misinterpreted as perverts. Irritated, his colleague asked where he got so much confidence that he could somehow win that bet against them. Since there was no problem, they decided to sign the contract immediately so that no one could go back on their word. A relevant legal contract appeared on the screen of the device on the protagonist's arm to formalize the bet between them. The 2 bullies showed him their student chips and told him to do the same so they could register the contract. With the 3 devices close together, the contract was established and the bet was officially made and registered between them. Satisfied, the 2 friends smiled and said that the contract was done, and if he broke it he would be punished by local law. Jiang Yashu wondered how that idiot could be so stupid as to accept such a contract, and Liang thought he did it on purpose. Curious, Yashu asked if it was on purpose, and her friend suggested that maybe he was an exposure maniac and would love to run around naked. The class president got angry and told her friend not to talk nonsense because Xia Ping wasn't that kind of person. Finally, classes ended and the sound of the bell echoed through the school, indicating the end of another school day for everyone. The students began to leave in a hurry and excited because someone dared to accept Shang Beishan's duel, and there would be a good show. Shang Beishan waited in the arena and wondered if Xia Ping had come out of fear or if he had already fled the scene. With an arrogant smile, he thought that the person who would dare to challenge him had not yet been born into this world at all. Suddenly, someone in the crowd pointed and said that the boy who was arriving seemed to be someone known to everyone there. Surprised, the students saw that it was Xia Ping and wondered if he was really there and wasn't afraid of what was to come. With a determined look, the protagonist just smiled and said that the word fear did not exist in his vocabulary at all. Shang Beishan said he thought the boy would run away and didn't expect him to have the courage to show up there for the duel. Just for that reason, he promised to take it easy and break only 5 of his ribs during the fight that was about to begin. The protagonist smiled and said that he didn't need that and that he should come with everything because if he held back he wouldn't be able to handle a single movement. The opponent furiously shouted that he was arrogant, a 3rd-level insignificant ant, and would make him beg for mercy. Xiang's friends shouted that he would definitely teach the boy a lesson and that they believed he would get the job done. The bully then asked the referee teacher if the duel could begin, and the man was on a floating platform nearby. The judge agreed, but reminded them not to use lethal force or he would intervene immediately to stop them. Xiang assured the teacher that everything would be fine and that he would definitely take good care of his opponent during the fight. The professor then announced that the duel was beginning and the 2 fighters faced each other ready to begin the battle in the arena. The challenger flexed his knees and an aura of power began to emanate from his body, demonstrating his strength and preparation. He charged forward using his intermediate martial art thunderous bear fist with the image of a bear appearing behind him. The spectators were amazed by Shang's power, who even at the 5th level could release an aura of the 6th celestial level. The protagonist, however, just yawned and said that was all, and that the opponent's movement was too slow for him. He realized that the system gave him the vision of a master, and that Shang was a slow, dumb bear with weaknesses all over his body. With a powerful roar, the boy released his invisible tiger fist technique, and an immense image of a tiger appeared behind him. The students were shocked, wondering how someone at the third celestial level could have that kind of powerful aura. The judge teacher was also surprised and wondered if the boy had already mastered the 5 fist forms perfectly. Xiang did not believe that the boy on the third level had such an aura, and while he only assumed the form of the bear, the other had form and spirit. Scorning the bully, he said that it was just an empty show of strength and advanced to attack with his powerful fist. The protagonist blocked the blow with ease, and Xiang was surprised by his opponent's incredible strength at that moment. He shouted that it was impossible to lose in strength and attacked with an even more powerful blow towards the protagonist there. With a quick and precise movement, the boy landed a direct blow to the black tiger's heart, leaving his opponent breathless. The impact of the blow was so strong that Xiang Beishan was thrown backwards and fell to the ground, feeling severe pain in his chest. Fallen and panting, the bully held his chest and groaned in pain as he tried to process what had just happened. In disbelief, he growled and wondered how it was possible for someone like the protagonist to be able to defeat him like that. The young man then used the technique of the white heron, spreading its wings, and landed a powerful kick to the chin of the already fallen opponent. The blow finished off Xiang Beishan, who fell hard to the ground, completely defeated and unconscious after the impact of the kick. With tears and phlegm running down his face, he couldn't believe he was defeated by someone he considered useless, and how that was possible. The winner then looked at the crowd and asked who was calling who trash now and who was at the bottom at the moment. With a confident smile and a thumbs down, he said to remember that if they don't have skills, they should be more discreet. Xiang struggled to his feet and shouted it was impossible to lose to someone like him and that he wanted to continue fighting there. The protagonist then said that he would stand still and let him attack, since the other seemed not to accept defeat in any way. With eyes red with rage, the bully shouted and began to run towards the boy, releasing all his remaining power. Xiang's friends shouted that he was domineering and would not lose under any circumstances, encouraging him to continue fighting hard. He then jumped and threw a powerful punch, shouting at the protagonist to go to hell right then and there without further delay. The girls in the audience were shocked, wondering if Shishaping would really just stand there and do nothing, and if he was crazy. The opponent quickly approached with his fist cocked ready to land a devastating blow on the boy who remained standing still. However, when the punch was about to hit him, Xiang Beishan suddenly stopped, unable to complete the final move. The winner then smiled and said that he was not only injured, his energy was also depleted, and that was his limit. Xiang Beishan fell to the ground in defeat, and the spectators were shocked and in disbelief that a third-tier artist had won. The judge teacher then shouted to send Xiang Beishan immediately to the school medical room for care. Raising the boy's arm, the judge declared that in that duel Xiaping was the big winner right there and then. Viewers commented that if they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed he beat the bully. The judge commented that the boy managed to master the Fist of 5 forms with absolute perfection, and that was impressive. Furthermore, his cultivation should have already reached the 4th celestial level, and when did the school produce such a peerless genius? Smiling, the protagonist said that he was just lucky because his opponent had greatly underestimated him during the fight in the arena. With his glasses shining, the professor then questioned whether this was really just luck or if there was something more to it. The man then explained that in the path of martial arts, there is no such thing as true luck for any practitioner. The master stated that he was looking forward to the young man's future development and asked him to continue working hard always. With a determined smile, the boy just agreed with the teacher's words confidently and nodded his head. The students wondered if he was in the 4th grade and if he pretended to be a pig to eat a tiger in the end. Jiang Yachu and her friend were shocked, wondering how Xiaping won and what happened there for such a result. The protagonist said that he won the duel and that according to the agreement, the two friends should run through the school right now. The two colleagues said it was just a joke and could they please cancel the contract they had previously signed. He then asked if he seemed to be joking, and if he had lost, they would let him go without fulfilling the bet. Stuttering, the two were left speechless as the protagonist showed the digital contract on the screen of his communicator there. With an evil smile, he said that if they refused, their federal credit would be reduced and goodbye college for both boys. In desperation, the two boys punched the air and wondered how this could have happened to them at that bad time. Suddenly Gawon appeared and shouted that the protagonist was being too much with his classmates and exaggerating a bit. The boy intervened, saying that they were all colleagues and that they should be lenient with each other there and not be so harsh. Other students agreed with Gawon and said that it was just a joke and that he should be more open-minded with them. With a dark smile, the boy only heard his classmates say that there was no need to take it so seriously there. He then asked if they wanted to defend them, and if so to go up on the platform to fight, and if not to shut up. Pointing at Gawon, the protagonist asked if he wanted to face him, and the boy seemed to hesitate with the proposal made. Turning to another colleague, he asked the same question, and the student quickly gestured denial in fear of the challenge. The winner called them all a bunch of cowardly turtles, and immediately gained 10 more hate points from each of them. The students were furious at the insults and told him not to get angry, or he would spit out his dentures from shouting so much. He told his two friends to hurry up and take off their clothes to run, as he would request electronic monitoring for them. And for the rest of the useless gang, if they had loyalty, they could join their friends in running naked around the school. Everyone screamed that the protagonist was an arrogant bastard and that he would pay for it in the future somehow. He was happy to realize that he had gained a lot of hate value and thought that the result was good and that he would do it more often in the future. Arriving home, the boy asked his mother what she cooked because the smell was delicious and very fragrant in the air. The mother replied that it was the meat of a fire bear, a monster that she had bought, and asked her son to eat as much as he wanted. The fire bear was a powerful monster that was difficult to hunt, with meat full of life energy, and extremely valuable for cultivation. Surprised, the young man asked if they had won the lottery and why his mother had bought something so expensive. The father said they didn't earn money, but they could be extravagant sometimes because he was a city administrator for the government. Changing the subject, the father asked if the school had already asked him to fill out the forms and what his plans were. While eating, the boy replied that he planned to enter the best of all, Yanhuang University, without hesitation in his choice. The parents were completely shocked by the news, and the father even spat out the food he was chewing at that moment. His mother complained that university was expensive and he would earn little and suggested that he become a manager like his father, who agreed. The boy told his parents that he still wanted to go to university and did not want any regrets, as he now had help from the system. After finishing eating, he then got up from the table and announced that he was going to practice a little in his room to get stronger. The mother told her husband that they should support their son's dreams and that she would work overtime, and the father thought he was dreaming. In the room, the young man began to meditate, and a powerful blue aura began to emanate from his entire body there. Impressed, he thought that, as expected of a high-level technique, he refined the energy from the bear's flesh quickly. What a shame there was little bear meat, because with more he would go to the 5th level, and he realized that money was essential to improve. He then wondered how to make money fast, since he wasn't strong enough to hunt monsters and jobs wouldn't pay for potions. He found out through research that the best novelists earned $1 billion federal dollars a year from their books. In his previous life, he saw countless popular novels and thought that writing a book would be a good decision, and asked himself the topic. In a world where martial arts are common fantasy and wuxia wouldn't do, and he didn't understand urban or historical fiction well. He considered that thrillers were not bad, but perhaps they would not become massively popular in that different world from before. Suddenly, he had an idea for a type of novel that would be successful regardless of the story or technology if it had men in it. With a twinkle in his eye, he thought of a specific genre of book that would be perfect for his brilliant writing idea. In a commercial building at night, the lights in an office were still on, indicating that someone was working late there. An editor-in-chief complained about the bad writing and wondered when a good writer of spicy short stories would finally show up. The man took some eye drops and noticed that the last draft of the day was of a new person named Blackheart Wolf. Sitting in his chair, the editor prepared to read the new text on the bright screen of his work computer there. The man then sat tight in his chair, impressed by the quality of what he was reading on the computer screen now. His feet also twitched. Such was the emotion he felt when reading those words so well written by the author. Completely shocked, The editor was drooling and could only say that it was incredible and unparalleled in the current publishing market. With wide eyes and nosebleeds, the editor shouted that this was definitely a masterpiece without equal in the world. He stated that it was such a good novel that he needed to sign that writer immediately and without any delay to his publisher. The protagonist saw that his novel was already #1 on the recommended list with 30 million views, and read the comments. Readers praised the book, saying it was the best they had ever read and that the author was a monster for writing something like that. Pleased with the views, he thought about asking the editor for an advance, but someone suddenly called his name in the room. Turning around, the boy saw that it was Zhang Yazhu, the class president, who was looking at him with a serious and determined expression. She then informed that in 3 days the school would hold a martial arts competition for all interested students. Surprised, the young martial artist asked if she was serious about a school-wide martial arts competition. The girl confirmed that it was an annual event and that basically all the best students in the school would participate in the important competition. And most importantly, if he were to finish in the top 10, he would represent the school in the city competition and have a chance at university. The protagonist's eyes lit up when he heard the mention of Yanhuang University, one of his biggest goals in life right now. She explained that Yang Wei and Ga Wan had lost their spots and asked if he would like to participate in the school competition. Thinking that the opportunity was not easy to get, the boy smiled and said that of course he would participate in the announced event. The colleague then said that was fine and that she would help him register using her wrist communicator for registration. When she was going to talk about some important details, she noticed that he was fiddling with his own device and not paying attention. Irritated, she asked what he was doing, and the boy replied that it was nothing special, just writing a novel at the moment. The girl thought that since he was little he fell asleep after 3 minutes of reading, and how could he write a novel now? Seeing the name, Black-Hearted Wolf, on the screen, she asked in shock if he had written that, and he confirmed the fact. As she read a passage, the girl's eyes widened and her face turned completely red with embarrassment and surprise. Zhang Yachu then yelled at the protagonist, calling him a bastard for being able to write such a shameless novel like that. The boy said that it seemed like she still didn't understand and that people say that art imitates life and exceeds it. Shocked, she wondered if he was a playboy and if he had written about his own experiences in the book she read. The girl shouted that she didn't think he was that kind of person and how could he do something so irresponsible like that. The classmates heard the responsible word and began to gossip about what could be happening between the two. They commented that they heard that the two were neighbors since childhood, and on a dark night they ended up creating a blazing fire. A student commented that he heard that the boy had more than 10 women, and that 7 or 8 of them were pregnant by him. Other students called him shameless for bullying the school flower, and that he was the shame of everyone there. Confused, the protagonist wondered if they had misunderstood something while gaining more hate points from his classmates. He then thought that whatever, and that being able to absorb a wave of hate points wasn't all bad. With a smile, he thought they were a bunch of worms, and the more they despised him and spread rumors, the stronger he would become. Outside, the boy thought that the competition would start in a few days, and that with his current power, he would not be among the top 10. He knew that the others might be at the 6th or 7th level, and that he needed to increase his cultivation to face them soon. The protagonist then saw the golden potion made from the hearts of 10 monsters and spiritual medicine that increased rapid cultivation. With an evil smile, he thought that this was the best thing for him at the moment and that he needed the potion now. He then realized that a potion cost 50,000 Federation dollars and that this was daylight robbery. Desperately, he asked himself where he would get so much money, because not even with his parents' salaries combined for 7 years would it be enough. He then sent a message to editor Mo Fai asking about the advance, and the man replied that he would send the money. A notification appeared on your screen informing you that the money had been transferred to your account and asking you to verify. Surprised, he saw that he had received $1 million, and that with that he could buy the golden potion in the city. However, a warning appeared saying that the potion's energy was explosive and that he could not buy it because he was at the 4th level. With a determined look, he thought that, If he couldn't buy it legally, then he would have to go to Dark Moon City for it. Dark Moon City was famous for vices and dangers, where money bought everything and angels and demons coexisted in that place. To quickly increase his cultivation before the competition, he would need to visit the place even if it was very dangerous for him. The next day at school, the system began to register a large amount of hate points directed at the protagonist there. As he walked through the courtyard, more points of hatred appeared, and some girls looked at him with contempt and anger at that moment. He didn't imagine that the gossip would spread so much, and he didn't know how many hate points he had gained with all that. The system then congratulated him for gaining 736 hate points in total, and he was very surprised. Smiling, he wondered if his association with the school beauty had really sparked the hatred of so many, since he wasn't even ugly. Suddenly, a deep voice called out to him asking if he was Xia Ping, and the boy turned around to see who was calling him. A well-dressed young man accompanied by other students appeared and ordered everyone to get out of his way immediately. The students recognized the boy as Zhou Taiyan from Class 1, a 6th-level prodigy from a very wealthy and powerful family. The girls commented that he was the famous Mr. Handsome in school, and that it was a shame that he only liked Jiang Yashu. A student with a mischievous smile commented that this was Jiang Yaju's supposed boyfriend, and that it would be interesting to watch. The protagonist then turned to Zhou Taiyan and asked him what he wanted from him at that moment in a straightforward manner. Zhou Taiyan told him not to play dumb, as it was obviously something about Jiang Yaju, and came to warn him there. In a superior tone, the rich man revealed that he investigated his past and knew that his father was a manager and his mother had a stall. He stated that the protagonist and Jiang Yaju were not born in the same world, because she was a daughter of the heavens and would shine at university. His background was trash, his studies were average, and how could someone like him bring happiness to Jiang Yaju in the distant future? The protagonist coldly replied that his relationship with Jiang Yaju was none of his business at all and to mind his own business. He then said that others could flatter Zhou Taiyan and seek to please him, but that was their choice and not his. With a mocking smile, the protagonist said that in his eyes Zhou Taiyan was even more insignificant than a stinky fart. Zhou Taiyan's followers were furious and asked if he was looking for a beating and if he was tired of living there. The rich man then shouted for his followers to stop and be quiet, because he himself would resolve that situation with the boy. He then said that he heard that the protagonist would be participating in the competition, and that he better pray that he wouldn't face him there, or else he would make him understand the vast difference between a genius like him and an ordinary person and release his powerful aura. The surrounding students felt the pressure of the aura and commented on Zhou Taiyan's incredible power at that exact moment. The rich man then said that he was someone the protagonist would never be able to reach and asked if he had understood that correctly. With a determined look, the protagonist just replied for him to wait and see what would happen in the future between the two. At night at the Tianshui City train station, the protagonist was preparing for his dangerous and important journey there. Wearing a hoodie and sunglasses, he walked along the crowded platform, blending in with the other passengers so as not to be noticed. The boy wore a disguise so as not to be easily recognized, since he was going to a dangerous place full of bad people. He thought that for a $20 toy, the face-changing costume wasn't bad at all and would come in handy. He swore that he would remember the humiliation, and when he returned from Dark Moon City, it would be Zhou Taiyan's turn to taste defeat. The train finally arrived at Dark Moon City, and a loud announcement asked passengers to disembark in an orderly and calm manner. As soon as he got off the train, the protagonist saw the violence and disorder in the city, with people fighting and begging for money. An attractive woman approached him asking if he was looking for some excitement, and he thought he better get out of there quickly. He then consulted the map on his communicator and saw that the Black Bear Company should not be far from the train station. This was a front company specializing in illegal smuggling with countless henchmen and very dangerous to approach. Arriving at the place indicated on the map, he found it strange because it did not seem to be the entrance to a large and powerful company. Looking up, he saw someone jumping off a roof and realized that was the back door of the Black Bear Company. He thought he would have to go around to find the main entrance, since it was just the back door. Suddenly something fell from above, and he got angry, asking who the inconsiderate bastard was who was throwing things from above. He then used his fierce tiger fist, leaving the gate technique to defend himself from the rapidly falling object. A huge impact raised dust, and the protagonist screamed in pain from the force of the blow that hit him right there. Coughing, he realized that it was not an object, but a person who had fallen from above and hit him squarely. The man in the leather jacket was also coughing and looked injured, holding his chest, with a pained expression on his face now. Surprised, the protagonist thought that the man fell from so high that he was punched and still didn't die, and that he must be a master. The man in the jacket did not believe that the company would set traps at the back door, and that they dreamed of killing him with a young man. Confused, the protagonist asked what he was saying, and that he was not who the man thought he was there. The man in the jacket shouted that he was an insignificant ant, and if he got in his way, he would die, and released a purple aura. The protagonist felt the power of the punch that was many times stronger than Shang Beishan's, and was very scared. Releasing his own blue aura, he wondered where that madman had come from and prepared himself for the impending combat. The man in the jacket shouted for him to die, and the two advanced towards each other, exchanging powerful and fast blows there. The impact of the two colliding created a shock wave that destroyed part of the alley and raised a lot of dust into the air. The protagonist was thrown back by the force of the blow and felt the impact on his body as he tried to recover. With gritted teeth, he thought that this person was very powerful and that the fight would be difficult for him to win. The man in the jacket wondered how it was possible, because his technique was not perfect, but it should not be blocked by a young man. Suddenly he felt a sharp pain in his chest and realized that his previous wound was opening again with the effort. The protagonist noticed that the man seemed to be suffering from near fatal wound, and that if it weren't for that he would easily kill him. The man in the jacket praised the young man for being so impressive and called him a genius, but said he should never have done something like that. The man shouted that what he should never have done was become a henchman for the Black Bear Company and pulled out a gun. Desperately, the protagonist recognized the light-piercing weapon and wondered if his snake fist would be faster than it. The man in the jacket asked him if he took him for a 3-year-old child and prepared to shoot him with his gun. With a scream, the man shot and said that the protagonist must die today as a ray of light went towards him. Cursing, the protagonist prepared himself for the impact of the shot that was rapidly approaching him with great speed and power. A large X-shaped explosion of light appeared at the moment the shot impacted the protagonist's body in the alley. The protagonist used his pure sun will not be extinguished technique to defend himself from the man's light weapon attack. The man in the jacket screamed in pain as the shot ricocheted and hit his hand, causing him to drop the gun. Seeing his chance, the protagonist advanced with his blue serpent aura and prepared to attack the injured man there. Surprised, the man in the jacket wondered if someone at the 4th level could really achieve that impressive attack speed. The protagonist used his technique fist of the poisonous snake that catches the rabbit and landed a direct hit on the man in the jacket. The man groaned in pain and wondered how it was possible to be defeated by that as a blue flame emerged in his chest. With a smile, the protagonist realized he had succeeded and watched the man in the jacket fall to the ground defeated and injured. He then caught up blood and felt his chest burn as he was not yet experienced with using the pure sun technique. He thought that although he already knew that Dark Moon City was dangerous and full of crimes everywhere, he was there. He didn't imagine that as soon as he entered he would find a madman, and he thought he was very unlucky in that bad and tense moment. Suddenly the man in the jacket on the floor screamed and asked what that was while looking at something in his bag. The protagonist heard voices approaching and realized that they were henchmen from the Black Bear Company looking for the injured man. He thought the situation was getting problematic and didn't know what the man had done to offend the company so much. He then picked up the fallen man's bag and thought that since he had killed him, his belongings were now his by right of conquest. Thinking it was best to get out of that lawless place, quickly he started running away from the dark and dangerous alley. One of the henchmen arrived and told the boss that there was someone on the ground and he appeared to be injured or perhaps dead. The boss recognized the fallen man, and one of the henchmen checked and confirmed that he was already dead at that moment. Division Chief Jung Cheng approached the body and checked the man's pulse, confirming his death on the spot. He wondered how it was possible because even if they had surrounded him and seriously injured him, there was no way he could die so easily. A henchman noticed a hole in the man's chest, as if someone had made it with their own hands, and the boss ordered him to be killed. Suddenly the boss noticed that the man's belongings were gone, and his eyes widened in surprise and anger. A henchman suggested that whoever killed him probably took his belongings, and the boss became even more furious about this. Zheng Cheng ordered them to notify the company to send reinforcements immediately and to block a radius of 100 miles and investigate. He shouted that as soon as they discovered the thief's motives, they should kill him on the spot, because he just wanted the items back. With his eyes glowing red, he threatened that if they didn't find the thief, they'd better come crawling back to him there. The henchmen shouted in unison that yes, boss, and prepared to carry out their superior's orders immediately there. One of the more experienced henchmen commented that the superiors had any stranger carefully inspected and if suspicious killed on the spot. Another henchman noted that with everyone in the division mobilized, not even a mosquito would escape Dark Moon City, and the thief was lost. The hidden protagonist observed the movement and did not know who would be so brave to irritate the Black Bear Company in that way. He then thought that with that situation, how would he be able to buy the golden potion, and that he would have to go somewhere else. He then picked up the bag he stole from the man and wondered what was in there that had made the company so angry. Opening the bag, he was shocked to see that it contained the golden potion he so desperately needed for his rapid cultivation. To his surprise and joy, he saw that there were not just one but 12 golden potions inside the stolen bag. With wide eyes, he thought that it was no wonder that the Black Bear Company wanted the man, because he was worth $10 million. Suddenly, he heard the voices of henchmen commenting that there was dust and recent footprints everywhere in that abandoned place. Desperate, the boy realized that in his panic to hide, he had forgotten to erase his footprints on the floor of the dark place. The pursuers quickly followed the marks on the floor, shouting that the fugitive must be nearby, heading in that direction. Seeing the men approaching, he noticed that the footprints ended there and escape was no longer a real possibility now. With a determined look, the young man concluded that his only way out at that moment would be to fight against all those henchmen. Knowing that whoever acts first has the advantage, he prepared his claws for a surprise and very fast attack against his enemies. In the blink of an eye, he then advanced towards the two men who barely had time to react to his incredibly fast movement. The henchmen screamed in great surprise and also frightened by the sudden attack and the strength demonstrated by the protagonist there. Using his tiger fist, a chain of ferocious tigers, he struck his opponents with multiple powerful and accurate blows. After the powerful attack, he landed on the ground as the bodies of his enemies fell defeated around him in the dirty warehouse. One of the men, still conscious on the floor, swore angrily because the boy dared to attack them by surprise in such a cowardly way. The henchman then pulled out a gun and pointed it at the young man, shouting at him to get out of here immediately without hesitation. The protagonist quickly used his lightning-like agile monkey technique and dodged the gunshot with extreme ease. Soon after appearing behind the shooter, he grabbed him by the neck and finished him off before he could attempt another shot. Relieved, the boy thought that luckily he had killed them in time, because if he had waited for them to draw their weapons, he would already be dead. He looked at the potions thinking they were worth millions, but even so the Black Bear Company wouldn't act so crazy just for them. Then he wondered if perhaps they were looking for a copy of the manual, The Way to Hear and Observe Heaven and Earth. When opening the book, a powerful energy emanated from it, and the protagonist questioned whether it was really that strong. Reading the content, he discovered that cultivating this technique required a mental strength that far surpassed that of ordinary people. He thought that only someone with great mental strength could cultivate the technique, and because he had two souls united, he was qualified. Hearing more noises, he realized he was in the territory of the Black Bear Company, and they had eyes everywhere there. One of the chiefs ordered some to check the left side, while others would go to the right to look for the fugitive. Another henchman ordered them to search carefully without leaving any stone unturned, and the young man feared being exposed if this continued. With a cold gaze, he decided that if he could no longer hide, then he would kill them all without any mercy right there. He quickly advanced against the henchman, who shouted to be careful of the skilled boy's surprise attack. In an agile movement, he then stabbed one of the men in the neck, neutralizing him instantly. The man who was hit screamed in pain as he fell to the ground and his knife flew through the air with no control whatsoever. Other henchmen also screamed as they were similarly defeated by the protagonist, who moved with incredible speed among them. After the fight, the boy was breathing heavily, sitting among the bodies of his enemies, lying on the floor of the dark warehouse. He thought that if he continued like this, he would certainly die from the company's attacks, and that the situation was very risky. So he concluded that his only remaining path was to use the golden potion and ascend to a 5th-level martial artist. Not caring about the dangers, he then drank the golden potion in one go to increase his power rapidly. The empty potion bottle fell to the dark floor of the warehouse as the effect began to take hold on the young man's body. The next day, Zheng Cheng watched the city thinking he would get the item back after finding the traitor, but someone was faster. He angrily thought about how the company had spent immense resources to obtain that manual and the traitor had simply stolen it. A subordinate approached, calling for Director Zheng, who immediately asked what the latest on the investigation was. The man reported to the director that so far they had not found the target and had also suffered losses of 5 or 6 men. According to the analysis of the location, the opponent should have been able to win using a surprise attack and with a lot of cunning there. Even so, Zheng Chen declared that they could not underestimate the individual, and it would be safer to send people of higher level. The headmaster then ordered Zheng Ha to take a few people, and when they found the target, they were to kill him on the spot without hesitation. The subordinate warned that young Master Zheng was strong, but the opponent would be a desperate man, and the pursuit could be dangerous. The director confidently replied that his son was a 6th-level martial artist, and even if he didn't win, he would be able to escape. He thought the manual was dangerous to outsiders and could only trust his own men for that important mission. Inside an abandoned building, the empty vial of the potion rested on the floor while the protagonist absorbed its full power. The two sources of power of the golden potion were digested, and the pure sun and the manual fought for space in his body. With determination, he stated that he would be able to tame those powers and become even stronger than he already was. He screamed that nothing could stop him from getting stronger as a blast of energy emanated from him, destroying everything around him. The boy thought that his punch now had the strength of 3,000 kilograms, and he could even beat Zhou Tian, a 6th-level artist. The system then congratulated the host for successfully becoming a 5th-level celestial martial artist quickly. With a smile, he realized that it was no wonder that the pure sun was inextinguishable, as it managed to tame such explosive energy. The system also congratulated you on completing the way to listen and observe heaven and earth and obtaining additional mental strength. He reflected that if he had not merged souls and obtained superior spiritual strength, learning the manual would be more difficult than ascending. Suddenly, with his heightened senses, the young man realized that someone was approaching his hiding place at that moment. Using his new ability, he could sense everything within a 12-meter radius. Not even the wind or grass escaped him. A small robotic insect flew towards him, but he caught it easily, thinking that it was something amazing and useful. He smiled, thinking that it was no surprise that the Black Bear Company wanted that secret technique so badly that they seemed crazy. With a smile, he threw the spy insect into the air, showing that normal magical techniques could never imitate it. A man informed Zheng Hua that he had observed the warehouse all night and had heard strange noises coming from there for sure. Zheng Hua, the son of the director of Black Bear Company, stared at him coldly and asked if he knew the consequences of lying. The informant assured him that if he had told half a lie, the prince could deal with him however he wished, and Zheng Hua smiled. With a toothless smile, the informant thanked Prince Zheng, rubbing his hands eagerly for the promised reward. Suddenly, Zheng Hua was hit by a surprise and swift attack that caught him completely off guard on the spot. He commented in surprise that the target took the initiative to show himself instead of continuing to hide in the dark warehouse. On the roof, the protagonist revealed that he had ascended to a 5th-level martial artist and now possessed great mental power. With a confident smile, he stated that it didn't matter who came because he wouldn't be afraid to face anyone. The henchman shouted that there was a strong enemy in the warehouse and that it was Prince Zheng, and everyone should run away from there. Zheng Hua angrily shouted for them to get out of his way as he drove his own men away with a powerful and swift blow. With an arrogant smile, he said that it was nothing and prepared to face the protagonist alone there. He then unsheathed his sword and charged forward with a blue glow emanating from its sharp and very dangerous blade. He said with disdain that it was the boy's bad luck to have crossed his path and ordered his henchmen to drag him away. They shouted to go and that the fugitive should be cut into 1,000 pieces for having dared to defy them thus. Suddenly several black stakes appeared, and the men screamed to dodge the surprise attack of the skilled protagonist. Zhenghua managed to dodge, but his henchmen were hit, and he complained that only the useless ones hid quickly. The men who were hit screamed in pain as they were thrown by the impact of the black stakes with great force there. The angry prince cursed his subordinates, calling them useless for not being able to deal with the enemy's simple attack. He then provoked the protagonist by calling him a rat who only knew how to hide and challenged him to a direct fight. Screaming, he questioned what kind of good person would hide in a warehouse stealing secretly like a common thief would. The boy replied that it was a fight, and if he didn't die then the protagonist would live, and whoever would fight 300 times. Zhenghua then advanced with his sword at high speed ready for a direct confrontation with the strong opponent. The protagonist thought he was not good at throwing hidden weapons, but now, with his new technique, he could control everything within 20 meters. Zhenghua dodged the black stakes as he tried to find an opening to attack the protagonist with his sword. Angry, he asked where the boy was and called him a cowardly rat, promising to cut him into 1,000 pieces when he caught him. The protagonist then stomped his foot on the ground, preparing for a final attack against the prince of the Black Bear Company. He declared that he would finish off Zhenghua and launched another volley of black spikes towards the enemy. Furious, the prince cursed the boy for hiding in the corner to launch a surprise attack in that cowardly way. He then used his 3 talented blades of heaven and earth technique, creating an energy shield with his sword. After defending the attack, he was breathing heavily with his sword in his hand and surrounded by smoke and dust in the place. Suddenly his sword began to crack and broke into several pieces, leaving the prince completely shocked and in disbelief. Desperately, he shouted the name of his sword as the protagonist approached him with a smile on his face there. The boy said he knew the prince loved to show off, but no matter how good his sword was, it wouldn't hold 9 stones. He then stated that without a weapon and at close range, taking the prince's life would be like taking candy from a small child. Zhenghua desperately shouted at him to move away and threatened him, saying that if he killed him, he would also die in Black Moon City. The protagonist ignored the threats and with a powerful blow hit the prince, who flew far away with the strong impact. Looking at the fallen body of the prince, he said that in a battle of life or death, he did not care who his father was. He thought that this was the leader of the helpers and decided to check what valuable things he had with him at the moment. He quickly began searching the prince's body, lying on the ground looking for useful items or money perhaps. To his surprise, he found a recovery potion that could help 6th-level martial artists recover their ki. Finding a book, he wondered if that was the 3 talented blades technique and that it would be worth a lot of money. Meanwhile, other henchmen were looking for Zhenghua, and one of them suggested that he might be in the abandoned building nearby. Arriving at the scene, they were shocked to see all the fallen bodies and wondered how that could have happened there. A henchman reported in shock that director Zheng's son was also dead, and the situation was serious and needed to be reported. Upon receiving the news, Zheng Cheng was in disbelief and asked what had happened to his son at the mission site. With hatred in his eyes, he growled that they dared to kill his son, and an immense fury began to take hold of him there. He then screamed in rage, promising that no matter who it was or where it came from, he would kill it and cut it into pieces. The frightened subordinate called out to the director as Zheng Cheng crushed the cell phone with the strength of his furious hand. With his eyes blazing, he ordered them to spread their command and mobilize all of Black Bear Company for the hunt. He swore that he would not give that individual any chance to escape, and a murderous aura emanated from his body. Meanwhile, the protagonist was on the road closest to the train station thinking about how to escape the city. The system informed him that a person had gained such a deep hatred for him that he would only be satisfied with his death and gave him points. The boy reflected that this deep hatred could only be because of Prince Zheng, who he had just defeated. Suddenly he saw some men approaching a civilian and realized that something was not right with that situation there. He noticed that not only the train station, but also the Yakuza members patrolling the area had increased in number. He heard that Director Jung went mad with rage over his son's death and used his highest authority to mobilize everyone. As he ran, he heard that the warden had ordered the killer to be cut into 1,000 pieces and his bloodline exterminated. The protagonist realized that he had really gotten himself into big trouble with the Black Bear Company and its allies. He thought that fortunately he had made preparations and changed his features so that he would not be easily recognized by anyone. However, he knew that it would be basically impossible to board the train peacefully with all that surveillance at the station. He was also afraid that once he got closer, the golden potion and the secret techniques he carried would be found. Desperately, he decided to check if the system store had anything that could help him get out of that difficult situation. The system then showed the stealth pill which, when used, hid the aura and made the user invisible for an hour. With an evil smile, he chose the pill thinking that with it, he could easily leave that dangerous place. He noticed that 1,200 hate points were basically all the points he had collected so far and hesitated. The boy thought that the Black Bear Company sent so many people to hunt him down and kill him, forcing him into that situation. He reflected that running away directly would be a waste of the pill, and he needed to think of a way to take the initiative. Elsewhere, a teacher called out to Xia Ping, telling him to stand up in the classroom full of students.